All right, all right. What's happening, everybody, man? Welcome back to the Agent to CEO podcast. This is where we turn experience into structure and conversations into frameworks. Every episode is built to give you clarity, standards, and measurable execution, not just ideas. If you're ready to scale with discipline, get over to sevenfigurecall.com and book your clarity call with me. That is sevenfigurecall.com. And I'm excited to jump in with today's guest, the bowler himself, Mr. Stace Bohlender. Let's dive in. What's happening, brother?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Navigating, trying to stay warm. You know, it's all of the above.
You see it's nice, bright and sunny out here. I think it's like 80 degrees today.
I'm a little bit jealous. I'm not going to lie. I am learning something, and that is seasonal depression is a real thing. And it is definitely, like, I understand why snowbirds are snowbirds.
So I've got a client up in Philadelphia, and he was talking to me, and he says it's been like below freezing for the last month. And then he says the sun poked out or whatever, and it started to melt a little bit of snow. And then boom, he got a foot or foot and a half the other day. So now it's back into, staying in his house, I guess.
Yeah, it's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. And it's been a really rough winter. And I think too, the climate of the market, the climate, not only the weather, but, just kind of what's happening globally, within North America, within the States, within each state, within, each market. Really, really interesting to see how things are, unfolding as we, make our way into this new year. But I would love for you to kind of take us back. I mean, I've shared your story so much and so much from, just an awareness side of things. And I think this is really an important for us to kind of unpack this in as many ways as we can. I know you and I've talked about this, probably have recorded, other episodes, similar around this conversation, but I would love for you to kind of take us back in time a little bit to when, we were in that transitional period, 12, 13 timeframe, 14 timeframe. And it's the whole thing, right? Like, we use the analogy of, like, a fish doesn't know what's above the water. All they know is the water until they poke their head up and they're like, holy smokes, there's a whole nother world up there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what it felt like when we were in that transitional period, and like, from a listing agent, like, function, I'll put you up against anybody. Like, I know in my core, you are that good. And I think what makes you so good is that you have a kindness filter. You're not nice. Stace is not a nice guy, but you're a very, very kind human being and very, very candid. And what I mean by that is you're not afraid to walk into anybody's home, sit on the couch and tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. You'll never blow smoke up anybody for any reason at all. And I think that's just a beautiful virtue, a character trait of yours that you possess. You're a very kind, candid human being. And that's just how you've always done and operated business. And so your skill set was formed in the fire. I mean, you went on every listing appointment that was like the worst listing appointments that most agents would say no to. You just had to go, and you would go. You got.
I'm still going on.
Yeah, $30,000, $40,000 houses, but you got paid like you were selling a $200,000 house. And so, knowing what your worth is and being able to collect it at a very high clip. But I want to fast forward a little bit to that transition point of, I remember throwing that at you and Reedy, and you were like, I didn't even know that was on the table. Like, your mind hadn't even thought about truly being an owner. You operated with an owner mentality. I mean, you showed up every day as if the company was yours, but that distinction of really becoming head of company. So I would just love for you to, in your words, kind of, when it's like, shit, I I am head of this company. I have got to run this company. I got to start thinking like a CEO. I got to start thinking like, I'm not just the guy out, collecting listings and selling listings. I'm responsible for budgets, for employees, for marketing. My name's on the line, like
A to Z.
A to Z, brother. So I would love for you, I think that's kind of painting the picture enough, but take us back to that moment, and then we'll build up from there, because I think there's so many lessons. We ain't got enough time to unpack all the lessons, but I think there's a lot of little nuances in your mindset shift that I got to see in real time. It was like, oh my gosh, right? It was like, the cute little gremlin turning into the mean gremlin, right? The little guy, and he ate after midnight, and all of a sudden,
Stripe. Gizmo to Stripe, I think, but without Stripe.
Yeah, you had it. So unpack that for us a little bit, and kind of from your perspective, how that transitioned for you mentally.
Well, so going back to like, being the first time that I went to like, not the mastermind, but, just your quarterly projects, and sitting in the room, and went to Cameron in the college and sit at the table and started coming up with all of our things, our PQPs and all these. And, I never, thought about, having ownership of a company. I don't even know if I wanted to be a business owner. My mother was a business owner. My grandmother was a business owner. My grandfather was a business owner. And, I watched all of their struggles and the things that they did. And, I'm just like, well, that's not really something that's in the cards for me. But, when the opportunity, we were in Texas, and we were at a house, and we were all sitting there. And then, Jay just like stopped midstream and says, hey, why don't y'all just buy this? And then won't y'all just take this over? And Reedy was sitting there, and I think Tracy was there, and you and me. And you remember this day? Mm-hmm. We were playing basketball outside and whatnot. And so then, Reedy and I think we're just kind of shell shocked. Like, well, I mean, is that something that like we really want to do? And so, I guess Reedy and I kind of talked about it, and decided, okay, hey, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. And so, we went, and that was in 2016, I believe, John.
16.
Yeah, I think it was 16. So 13 and 14, like you were talking about, that was, it was a tough market. It was a tough market here, and, things weren't always, the greatest. The average sales price was very low, and, average days on market was like 6 months, 7 months. And there was 13, 15 months worth of inventory, and it was tough. And all through those years. And then, 16 came around, and, you guys had already left and moved, and, we were pretty much just running everything. And then that's when the opportunity presented itself. And so we were like, okay, you know what, let's do this. And I'm going to tell you what, from that day to this day, the growth and the heartache and the shifts of mindset and all these things, they have changed 100%. Not even the same person anymore.
What was, so I couldn't agree with you more. I'm like when I talk about like proud, I tell people, like, I'm proud of you. And what I mean by that is coming out of the country club, and we're hounding you. Kendra and I are like on you, like to, I mean, I can't even describe how much we were all over you, attacking you, and growth mindset. And Jay was like trying to make you feel as bad as possible because you wouldn't put Audible on your phone to listen to some damn audiobooks. to where you're at right now, that transformation. So I think that's so insightful. I think that's kind of maybe what was the turning point? Like what belief system in you changed to go from, dude, I'm good, man. I'm not going to download Audible. I'm not going to read. I'm not going to do this, to the leader that you are. Like, dude, if you don't have a growth mindset, you don't have 20 plus deals personally pending right now in mid to end of February in 2026. In any market, you don't have 20 plus deals pending. So what was that belief changing moment for you to where like it all changed?
Man, we're not getting any younger. That's part of it. Like, you you're not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. And, it's, I want light at the end of the tunnel. I don't want to work my entire life. I want to have, passive income. I want to have, retirement. I want to be able to have people that I can coach. And like I needed to do something for myself. Like nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save anybody. Like you have to save yourself. Right. So, you got to make those decisions. You get up every single day. You make the decisions that you want to be better. You want to have whatever you want to have that growth. And I didn't want to live like that anymore, man. I've got a grandson, my daughter, I raised my daughter, I got to I got to make sure that our employees are getting their paycheck. I mean, I got to make sure that, this business runs. I got to pay the bills. I got to do all these things. And, at the end of the day, I want something left for me. And, I have to, get up every single day and grind and do the things necessary to be able to provide and put food on the table. And if I don't, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to come, like, you're going to let me sleep on your couch. Like, I don't want to sleep on your couch, like yeah. I want to, I want something for me.
Yeah. And sometimes it seems to take others to get us to change. Right. And I think that says a lot about the type of leadership style that we really resonate with, right? Which is more selfless and the ultimate servant type leadership. And sometimes it takes that, right, to make that shift. Once you had that and you saw it, like that shifted. What changed? Like the way you showed up, the way you executed, the way you thought, like what were some of the big, like some things that you have then recognized and anchored in the decision-making process and really, think about, holy shit, the last 10 years of how much growth that you guys have had from, where you were personally and even financially personally to where you guys are today. And from even a net worth perspective, it's remarkable. That's why, like I said, so proud of you guys, but what are like, break down once you made those changes, you had the new belief system and you got so many people depending upon you, but what were actionable items, strategies, things that you put in place, systems that you put in place to be like, okay, all right, this is what we're about to do. This is how we're going to execute on, what we've got in front of us.
For sure. So, running this through, like, what is this going to do? What is the outcome? Like, what is the purpose of like what we're trying to implement? Anything, you're running it through a filter. And is this going to improve my quality of life? Is it going to improve the quality of life of the people around me? Is this going to be better for us? Is it not going to be better for us? How does this impact us financially? And really trying to make those smart decisions of, like, you can go out there and you can go spend money on all kinds of things. You can put it onto, these, like homes.com and spend this money on Zillow and realtor.com and all these lead generation platforms and all these things, but at the end of the day, those leads that you're generating, they're leads that everybody's generating, right? You got to, is it really the smart choice, or is it going to be financially viable or something that, is going to push that needle forward for us and move us in the right direction. And so, running everything through a filter to make sure that it meets the needs of what we're trying to accomplish here in this company. And, it fits with our staff and it fits in our core values and all of those things. And that is what's, important to us. And I think has moved us in the right direction.
Do you have an example you could walk me through?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So, homes.com, even though, like homes.com is, trying to, make theirself like the new Zillow, I guess, or whatever it is, and they say they have a billion views a month or a year or whatever it may be. And, is homes.com at $1,200 a month really going to be, something that's going to generate enough opportunity for us to pay for that for the entire year? And, after analyzing and looking at it, and no, it's not.
What are you basing it on to know if it's a good decision or not?
the return on the investment.
So how do you break that down? What do you like for you? How do you come to that conclusion?
I would say that what are the opportunities that they're generating or we're given for those? What is the cost of acquisition of that to get that opportunity? And then start to break it down. So let's say they give us, and this is saying this price point here, $100,000 lead. Well, that $100,000 lead, and if I give it to one of my agents, then that $100,000 lead, and let's say an average of 3% is $3,000. This costs after the split is $1,500. And if I only get one of those a month, and it costs me $1,200, and to generate that lead, and I'm only getting $1,500 a month out of it, is it worth it?
Right. Probably not. Probably not, because we're talking $300. That's not even the cost to service it, because you have coordinators.
Exactly. 100%. So you're going out there and you're marketing, you're boosting, you're doing paying the staff for these things. It's not worth it. So you have to have a better return on your investment. And to me, John, in the business, it's all about the return on the investment. Like if you can have a return on your investment, but if it's pennies on the dollar, then we're not dealing with enough pennies to equal enough dollars to make it work.
Yeah. You have a lot on your plate. You wear a lot of different hats. What are you doing daily to be able to sustain the investments, the heavy production load, the responsibility of staff, of other agents, of the office that we're in? Like, do you have a daily structure that you're doing to really, keep the machine running?
Yeah. So I will tell you, in the last 12 months, we have really started to go back through everything that we do, every single dollar, whether it's the radio, the billboards, or we've run some TV, our vehicle wraps, and all these things. And so we've started to scale back and really tried to get skinny because things were rough. We're coming out of some of the worst years, 2 years, 23 or 24 and 25 were some of the worst years in real estate, and they're not any better around here. There's a lot of people that got out of the business. Agents, had to go back out there and get employment somewhere. They're left the business. So, we've really scaled back on what we're doing to try to get skinny and really see what really actually works, instead of just having everything out there, as far as we're trying to narrow it down to 2 or 3 things that we're able to really focus on to drive the business. Now, as far as me on my plate, I handle everything. Like I handle the marketing, I handle the staff, I handle the meetings, I handle the financials, I handle 99% of the listings, which we're trying to put more of the listings on Reedy's plate to help get him out there and get him out of the buyer side. And I have to make sure that my staff, my people, are doing the right things necessary. So I'm having meetings with them to get them lined out. I have a meeting with my closing coordinator every Monday morning to get updates on the files, and it don't take very long, 15, 20 minutes with them. My financial meetings with our in-office accountant on Fridays, and our impact zone meetings, and just making sure that they're clear on what their duties and responsibilities are, because I can't do all the thinking for everybody and do all the work. So I have to make sure that they're fine-tuned to be able to do what they need to do to be able to support the amount of work that I do.
Yeah. No, the stuff that you have on your plate, it's really one of those things. Like, I just don't think you know any better. So you just, your pain tolerance is really, really high.
And it is, unfortunately, it really is. And I'm the type of person, like, I like to get out there and get my hands dirty. I don't mind going and building signs. I don't mind going to a house and taking care of something for somebody. Like, I enjoy that. It gives me something to do. It gives me some, I wouldn't say purpose, but I like to be involved in things. Like, I do not like to sit idle. Idle kills me. It wears me out. My brain goes 100 miles an hour whenever it's idle, and it gets me in trouble.
There's one of my favorite little lyrics out of one of Nipsey Hussle's songs is, "On a mission, your worst enemy is idle time." And so it's just like, I constantly remind myself of that, right? When you're on a mission, your worst enemy is idle time. And so you've got to constantly be making progress. I was actually talking with Renee right before this, and I was sharing a message from Vern Harnish on like his number one takeaway from the Olympics, right? Like what can we really take away from the Olympics? And it's just a reminder, right? Like the athletes show up and they train to peak in that moment. And did they perform their absolute best, right? Like that's it. It's them against them. And maybe their best is enough to get them on the podium. But maybe their best is just their best. Maybe they improve by a full second, right, of their best. And maybe they finished 6th or 7th. However, they showed up and they did their best, right? And sometimes our best doesn't get us on the podium, but it's still we're doing our best. And it's like one of my top book recommendations is the 4 agreements, and that's the 4th agreement, right? The 4th agreement is just show up and do your absolute best every day. That's it. That's the agreement that you have to make with yourself, is that you're going to show up today a little bit better than you did yesterday, right? Like that's the ultimate question at the end of the day. Am I a little bit better going to sleep tonight than I was when I woke up this morning?
Man, I feel guilty if I do not do the things that I'm supposed to do on a daily basis. I feel guilty. Like I let myself down whenever I'm like at the end of the day, I'm thinking, damn, I forgot to do that. I'm like, crap. Like it irritates the crap out of me, and that I did not finish or do something that it should have been done. So I try to do everything every single day to the best of my ability, to where tomorrow is a fresh start for me.
Mm-hmm. And you live by that first agreement, which is your word is impeccable, right? Like even the promises you make to yourself, you don't want to break, right? Because that's the first rule. And the first rule is, your word is impeccable. I want to kind of jump around and jump back a little bit. We looked at kind of business model question, right? We looked at every which way that we thought we could make EXP or the cloud-based brokerage make sense for you guys to move out of independent into kind of the cloud-based model. And bro, we did the math forwards, backwards, upside down, left, right, right, left. I mean, diagonal, horizontal, like any which way that you could possibly think about how we're going to make this work. And we could never make the math. And so in that moment, we had to start thinking a little bit different and really understanding. And I just remember asking, you and Reedy, I mean, what's the exit strategy? Like, what are we doing? I mean, do you want to keep selling houses when you're, 83 years old? And the answer is hell no. So walk me through that decision-making on the business model and the direction that y'all ended up going, and thinking in, the exit strategy in the route that you ended up going. I think there's so many nuggets in here that so many agents out there can follow. And I mean, y'all do so many things right. And I think you got this right. And so I'd love for you to kind of share the decision on the business model and, kind of the vision to get you and Reedy, to that exit to where you're not selling houses, for the next 30, 40 years.
Yes. So the XP model for us, I feel like the reason that it didn't work, and John, it actually might now, I do not know, but it's because our average price point was so low. Mm-hmm. And, the money that we were be given to, for our caps and giving back to XP and things like that, I think that was a lot of our profit margins for, the year, and, our operating capital and whatnot. So, we started looking at what is, EXP, and we can't, we don't compete with EXP. Like you guys, the cloud base and all the training and all the things is absolutely phenomenal. Like it is great. But we took what, they were doing, and we looked at it and we're like, okay, you know what? Well, maybe we can kind of structure ourselves kind of like what that is, and so then we still have a team model, and then we have an independent brokerage model that goes along with it. And so we're all under one roof, and we give the option of our agents that, we're on our team and they want to start going out there and building their own name. Well, we have a good name in our community. We drive a lot of, marketing to our company. We generate a lot of leads, this, that, and the other. So now they have the ability to go out there and, pay a cap to us and go to 100% at the end of the day once they reach their cap. They can do it monthly. They can pay it out, in a quarterly or yearly or whatever they want. So, as an agent, you can actually get 100% of your transactions if you wanted to just pay your cap to us. And then, the other thing, there was things that we were missing, and, property management is one of them. That is something that I've really been focused on is, the property management. And, even if your real estate business is not doing the greatest, there's opportunity in property management because you have, a portfolio of properties that you're managing with people, and that is an income that comes into you every single month. So, that property management piece it really helps, with our business and, funneling some capital into, other things that we need to do. But the most important thing is the exit strategy. And, this is something that, I want a retirement. I want to be able to, get out of real estate. And, we were sitting in, I think it was at the Ambassador in Oklahoma City, and it was 2 years ago, maybe. And I'm falling short on this, but I created a goal, and it was 50 by 50 and have 50 properties by the time that I was 50. And so, we haven't reached that goal yet, and I'll be 50 in June. So, I've moved it a couple of years to be able to get to that number. We've sold some of those properties off that were our problem kids, the repairs, and they just didn't have enough positive cash flow, and they just didn't, they didn't gain enough equity, the type of house that we were buying. So, we've gotten rid of some of those, and now, our rental portfolio that we own, has, a couple $1 million worth of, rental properties in there. And, we have about, 60% equity in these properties that we can leverage and borrow against if we need to, or whatever it may be. And they're going to start to, pay off in the next few years. So, that is the biggest thing is I wish that, I would have got into buying properties and flipping properties sooner than I did. And the flip is really what, can also fuel your business as well. And I even talked to, Travis Wright the other day, and I was talking to him about flips and rental properties and things like that. And, I think that is huge opportunity for everybody out there. I mean, anybody can do it. As long as you got the right connection with the bank, you go to the bank, and, why pass it? And I know it sounds terrible, but why pass it off to these investors when you can be your own investor? Like, put it in your pocket. Don't be putting it into somebody else's, right? And so, all those things to, adding them together is how you build an exit strategy in this business. And the other thing is, like with you having it in XP is your downlines and, the people with the, recruiting and things like that is, something, but this is something else that you would add to that.
Yeah.
Like, just have multiple income streams, like not just focus on one. Like, you got to have more than one. You got to have, 3 or 4 income streams that are coming in, because they're not all going to fail at the same time. Some of them this one might be doing bad, but these 2 over here might be doing great, and this one might be just kind of run of the mill. So you just have that opportunity. You got to do it for yourself.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more, man. I think that's what's right in the model and how you have to think about it. And, Caleb Pearson nailed it, right? He was one of the ones from, that I was personally coaching for a long period of time that saw it early on in his career and made the adjustment. And that's his whole focus, right? Like, his real estate business and the flips keep cash flow going, but he uses his real estate business to unlock the opportunities to build wealth. And that's the format. What would you tell another agent out there that's listening to this, that's kind of at a crossroads, that's stuck a little bit? What would you tell them, to gain some clarity on the model and utilizing it to build wealth into the future?
Stop thinking and start doing. Like, you need to go identify some properties for yourself. You need to go and build those relationships with the bank. even though you don't think you can do it, the banks will allow you to use their money, most of the, depending on what bank it is, to be able to buy the properties. And, a lot of these banks have cracked down, but the bank we bank with, I don't have to infuse any of my own money. I use their money. So, I'm able to, and I've done it enough that it works that way. Some banks want you to put in that 20% to have that, but, we have to put down 20%, but then we get 90% of repairs. So if I'm able to gross up the repairs to cover the 20%, and I still have my draw to pay for the project. So very, very little. I mean, if we might go over, budget on some of the, the numbers as far as like, I didn't account for, having to replace a vanity or, something, repairs or whatever it may be, but it's not to the tune of, tens of thousands of dollars that I would have to, buy that property.
Yeah.
So, making those relationships with your local banks to be able to set yourself up for success and flip those properties. And once you do the first one, then you're off to the races.
Yeah, it is. You just got to get a little taste of it. And then it really becomes, it unlocks a whole new game within the residential real estate space. And, truth be told, I mean, that's what I miss. I miss the deals of the investment deals, the flips, the negotiation, the developments, the new construction. I genuinely miss that, right? I miss the connections that you develop. I miss, hey, we got an appraiser issue, being able to pick up the phone, call 2 of the top 3 appraisers in the state to get answers and insights. Just the relationships that business can truly, truly unlock in any market, right? It's just how you choose to design it and use it.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, your real estate business unlocks all those opportunities. So, getting to the point of your, in your real estate business to get it, I wouldn't say on autopilot, but be able to make the right hires, to be able to make the right investments and do those things. Like, people seek us out now to like buy their properties. We're running the guaranteed sale or whatever it is. And people, I get crazy messages. I just got a text message that somebody wants me to call them about down in that they have I'm just gonna read it to you. It's crazy. So they messaged me and says, this person has an old cockfighting ring that they want to put on the market. It's like, I guess those things are real. I've never been to one, but it's just the real estate company unlocks so many different avenues for you, and the amount of people that you get to meet in, with your, your attorneys and your bankers and your councilmen and all these things and all the transactions that you're a part of, they're all special and they're all important, and you can capitalize off of those relationships with all the opportunities.
How did you, so I understand the process just because the history you and I have. How would you articulate that to another agent? Put your coaching hat back on, and you're coaching and mentoring them through that. Like, how would you help them unlock that mindset? Because to me, it's just a mindset shift that has to happen. How would you coach them through that to understand? Listen, man, you're just gonna keep chasing transactions to keep the lights on. You have to think a little bit differently. How would you coach them and kind of give them the framework and the mindset to, unlock what you're talking about?
Yeah. So I would think that the very first thing that I need to be clear on is what the goal is. Right. So, what is their goal, whether it be, financially or, personal or whatever it may be. And then, figuring out, okay, well, how does this fit into, achieving your goals? So, and then once that I've, unpacked that with them and, uncovered it, then holding them accountable. Right. So, every single day, like, what is your limiting belief, or what is your reservation of why you can't accomplish something? Right. So, well, they might say, well, I ain't got the money to do it, or I ain't got the time to do it. Well, we all got the same amount of time. We all start with the same amount of money, theoretically, right? We start from zero and then we work our way up. So, what opportunities or what relationships do you need to build to be able to make these things happen for you? And so then I would start trying to point them in the right direction, and then hold them accountable to whatever their goal is. I mean, to me, it's got to be not everybody's going to want to do it. Not everybody thinks they can do it. I mean, everybody can do it. It's just, I think that they have to get out of their own way and fix their mindset. And so that's what I have to do is I have to, instill in them that, they're just as good as the next person, and then they can do anything that person can do.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. That's absolute gold. It's funny. It's not funny. It's just like, I'm smiling because it's coming from you, which is really, really cool. And like, man, I see, and I know, so many teams now across the globe. And I mean, y'all have the right message in the market. You're thinking about things the right way. You're utilizing the business. You're not, getting delusional that you're building a business that is going to be able to sell for millions of dollars. You're utilizing it as a vehicle to, get y'all to exit, get you to freedom. And to me, that's the goal, right? That to me is the goal. If you're going to be in this game, is designing and building your business to go unlock these opportunities to get you to freedom.
I can make more money in one transaction for myself than I can in this company in a month.
Yeah.
And you put that over month and year over year, what can you do to increase your net worth and your value and your freedom to do so. So, if you can make 50, 70, 80, 100,000 or more on one transaction, how many houses do you got to sell every single month? So if the business is self-sustaining and it does what it does, and then it creates those opportunities for me and my business partner to be able to go buy an investment property and flip properties, man, I would love to have, excuse me, 10 or 12 in the pipeline at all times. It's harder to find the deals right now because, it just is, but they're out there. You just have to be patient. And when you do have them, the opportunity, you have to be ready to pounce on it. It's not like, you get to just, maybe you got to have that sense of urgency because somebody else knows the opportunity and they're going to do it.
Yeah. And I think leaning back in, especially in the climate of the market, is having, it's almost a desperate seller offer, right? But it is dang sure a motivated seller offer. Is, you mentioned it earlier in the conversation, ROI on everything. And there is nothing that is going to give you a greater ROI and greater return on your time. Because I think that's what you are most concerned about now, right? With your daughter, with the grandbabies. Congratulations. And so I think it's also return on time and the importance of unlocking, to me, the investment opportunities, and the greatest return on your time is a desperate, motivated seller offer to your market. And it's either guaranteed sell or cash offer. You guys just have continued the guaranteed sell brand. We know, dear friend up in Norman, Oklahoma, Mr. Kyle Davis, strongest cash offer. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's one pick one and run with. But that's going to help you unlock those opportunities in the marketplace. Brother, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, we kind of combine them both on the guaranteed sell and a cash offer. If you don't want to wait, we make you an offer right away, or your home sold guaranteed, and, we'll buy whatever it may be, and we blend them together. So, that is definitely a USP that we have.
Yeah.
It does help.
It does. And it's like you look at the top agents and teams across the country that aren't like built off of Zillow. They are built off of a motivated seller offer, right? Every single one of them, right? If they are massive, right? Meaning 20% market share, 5, 750, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 transactions per year, they are built off of one of two things. And sometimes a combination of all of the above. You're either built off of Zillow listen, if you know how to make Zillow profitable, there ain't nothing wrong with it. It's right. Just understanding, the math.
Well, you said something that is very key in this business, and it goes to whatever you're doing, and it is the motivation. So all your clients are made out of motivation, because you're not going to have a client if they're not motivated.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. And you do a wonderful job. Like I said, very candid. You pull that out of them. You can identify real motivation in a real hurry. So, if it's worth your time to explore a little bit deeper or, move on. And you got to have those hooks in the water, the call to actions in the marketplace, or you're just making it harder than what it already is.
Totally agree, 100%.
Stace, brother, I appreciate you. A couple of really, man, things that, key takeaways, things learned. Obviously, show up better each and every day. Man, stop overthinking and just freaking do it. Right? Like, do it now. I remember that was old Sully's mantra. Do it now.
Touch it once or something, I think, maybe.
Yeah. His big thing, right? He used to write it down. He would scream from the rooftops, touch it once, do it now. And then I'm so glad you brought it up. I didn't even think about it, but dude, what's your goal? What's the goal? Let's start there. And I think that's a great reminder that truly is the starting point. So what's the goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And from there, there's so many ways to get to the goal. Especially, we're not building unicorns, right? We're not building the next Apple. We're not building the next, SpaceX, the next Tesla. We're building couple $1 million, businesses. There are a lot of ways up that hill to get to that goal. And so once we know the goal, then we can start carving out all the paths and all the ways to get there that align to who you are and what you believe in and kind of the skill set that you bring to the table. So, bro, those were my big takeaways. Like I said, I'm proud. And I think, obviously the blood, sweat, and tears of 10, 11, and 12, 13 timeframe before, moving down to Texas and resurrecting that business from death many times. I mean, you and Reedy right there with me. And I mean, I don't know how many times the business was on dead on arrival, right? Dead on the table, that we were able to pull it out of the depths. And just like I said, so proud of where you've grown, where you've taken the business. And man, it's going to keep compounding for you. Just the way you think, the way you operate, the agreements that you keep with yourself and into the marketplace. It's definitely something that you should be proud of as well, brother.
I am. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, guys, man, thanks, brother. Can't, like I said, man, can't thank you enough for joining us today. Listen, get connected with Stace, an absolute wealth of knowledge and information. Like I said, I don't know anybody better. I would put him head to head with anybody on the planet going into any listing. Also put you back into that head of company, head to head with anybody, making decisions and making the right decisions and operating with the highest level of integrity. So you guys listening in, man, make sure you guys get connected with Stace. And man, that's going to put a wrap on today's Agent to CEO podcast. Hopefully you guys got a lot of nuggets. I've got notes here myself. So if you guys are ready to really step into that CEO seat like Stace has, go to sevenfigurecall.com, book your call, get connected with Stace, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
See ya.